This one might be surprising because, of course, that's just one of those things that people just get. I went to their townhome and immediately it smelled like poop. Hey, I'm Amber. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Last week, I filmed a video about the only newborn items that you need for your baby, so I thought it would just be fitting this week to film I thought it would be fitting to film a video this week about common baby items that you really do not need. Some of these items I was gifted or purchased and found that I really didn't need them, and some of these I didn't think I needed to begin with and have not needed them yet at 6 months. So let's just get into it. The first item is a rocker or a glider. And this one might be surprising because, of course, that's just one of those things that people just get for their nursery. I think it can be a nice thing to have, but if you are on a budget or if you're short on space, it's not 100% necessary. I mainly used mine just in that first month of my son's life, and then I almost stopped using it. At this point now, we rarely use it. What he actually prefers is the gentle bouncing motion on a yoga ball. So like we sit on the yoga ball and we gently bounce him. And he loves that. That calms him right down. So that can be a little bit tiresome on your back because of course the yoga ball makes you sit upright and use muscles that we are not used to using because we're used to reclining back in a chair. In that sense, the rocker or glider could be nice, but like I said, if you're on a budget or if you're tight on space, you could absolutely get away with just having a yoga exercise ball to calm your baby. The second thing is a changing table. I think that the inconvenient thing about a changing table is that whatever room it's in, that's the room that you have to go to change your baby. So we opted to get a changing pad instead. And I love that you can just take it to whatever room you're in. You can travel with it. It's super convenient. It's not expensive. But if you have low back problems, then maybe just get the changing table. Only because with the changing pad, you either have to be more mindful about your posture or you're just gonna be like hunched over and that can end up aggravating your back a little bit. But if you don't have low back problems or if you're positive that you can be good about your posture while you're changing your baby, then it's definitely a more affordable option and it does not take up like any space. The third thing is a baby swing. There's the kind that's like suspended and it actually swings, and then there's the kind that has a base that is on the ground and it's like this. We actually were gifted one that was like the second one I described. It's called, I think, like the Mama Roo. And actually it was gifted to my sister. Her baby didn't like it, so my parents were like, oh, we'll bring it out to you the next time we come. My baby didn't like it, and ironically, one of my girlfriends got one for her baby, and her baby didn't like it. So I feel like it's just one of those things that they're really expensive, and you're really taking a gamble. Like, even if it's gifted to you, I wouldn't want someone to spend that much money on me for something that my baby may or may not like. And there's so many other ways to calm your baby or to have them be okay without you actively holding them that are much, much cheaper to explore before you get a baby swing. Before we get into the next thing, if you are enjoying this so far and you like motherhood, healthy living, kind of crunchy content, please subscribe to my channel. Just hit that button down there. I would love to see you around here more often. The fourth thing is a sit-me-up chair and standing activity center. I actually was gifted a sit-me-up chair, which I figured we probably would use, but I was reading a book called The Montessori Baby. I'll link it down below. It's a really good read. And in that book, they mentioned that those two items are not great for the baby's hips because it puts a lot of pressure on their hips when they're not actually physically ready to like be in those positions just yet. So of course I did a quick Google search and I found out that that is true, and there were lots of articles explaining that those items can actually lead to hip dysplasia. So I immediately was like, get rid of it. And I'll link one of those articles down below for you to check out for yourself. If you are using those or if you choose to use them, there is no judgment from me. You have to do your own research and you have to assess what's best for you, your baby, and your situation. But I think just here in the US at least, I can't speak for other countries, we put a lot of value in things that are convenient and in things that encourage progress. I feel like we are just constantly trying to get our babies to like sit sooner, crawl faster, walk sooner, maybe not crawl faster, but like all of those things, like trying to get them to hit these milestones sooner. And I don't know why, other than the fact that I guess also here in the US, we put a lot of value in our accomplishments and how fast we accomplish them, when we accomplish them. So maybe it all revolves around that. But I just personally decided that I do not want to put my baby's physical wellness at risk for my own convenience. The fifth thing is a ton of baby clothes. If you are gifted a ton of baby clothes, go ahead and take them, but there's no need to purchase a bunch before your baby is even born or right when they're born, because in that first month or two, there's gonna be like a lot of leaks and blowouts, possibly, which you don't wanna get on the cutesy clothes, and you're probably not really gonna be going a ton of places in that first month or two. I found that it was just much better to wait. Of course, we had some onesies for newborn 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. But as far as the bulk of his clothes, it was easier to purchase those or thrift those later. And also because you don't know how fast or slow your baby is going to grow. Like, for example, my son is kind of a tiny guy. And so I'm glad that we didn't have a bunch of clothes that we purchased that he would not actually be able to fit into for a long time. The next thing is baby mittens. I did get those because I didn't want him scratching at his face, but one, I found that they're kind of a pain in the butt to keep on their little hands, and two, it's actually really just easier to cut their nails. When they're brand new, their nails are actually so soft that you can just like peel the excess off, but even as their nails start to get a little bit harder, just make sure that they are good and asleep, and then you can hold them and your friend or your partner can clip their nails, or you can even sit them up on your knees and just like have them laying back a little bit and you can cut their nails. At this point, my son actually will let me do it while he's awake. Another reason not to get the mittens is because I read that it's better to leave their hands and feet exposed as much as possible because they are exploring and taking in so much of the world around them, and a huge way that they do that is through touch and feel through their hands and their feet. So staying on the nails theme here, the next thing you don't need is baby nail clippers. Like I said in the beginning, you could just peel off the tips of their nails, but I found that using my own nail clippers work just fine. As long as you have a steady hand and your baby is either asleep or calm, you should be good. The eighth thing that you do not need are those little newborn baby beanies. Actually, my midwife was the one that told us not to put that on his head. If you live in a really cold climate, or if you keep your house like freezing cold, then you might need them. I was told that it's actually better to just bundle them up and to leave their head exposed so that they don't overheat. The ninth thing is tons of baby toys, especially because in those first 2-3 months, they're not going to be doing much of anything other than looking at things. So it's good to have a couple of things for them to look at, but I didn't want this like hodgepodge of toys, half of which he won't be able to use for like who knows how long. So I found that it was much better and kind of fun to get toys that were developmentally appropriate for him, like as he got older. And another thing is that babies are entertained by the most simple things. Like, you do not need the toys with like all the bells and whistles. The other day I was washing dishes and my son grabbed an empty milk carton, so I washed it off, gave it to him. He played with that milk carton for like 20 minutes. So I think they're entertained by very simple things, and those simple things, not necessarily a milk carton, but like simple toys, can actually be really, really good for their development. The 10th thing is a nursing pillow. I had one that doubled as a pregnancy pillow. I did not really use it that much as a pregnancy pillow because it was just a pain in the butt to have in the bed. And then it wrapped around and snapped in the back as a nursing pillow. It was just so big and bulky and it just got in the way. So what I thought was much more convenient was just to have a small couch cushion like lumbar pillow, and I would just put that under the arm that I was holding him on, just prop my arm up on that, and that worked great. The 11th thing that you do not need is a diaper pail like the Diaper Genie. I remember years ago, a old friend had one, and I went to their townhome and immediately it smelled like poop. And I don't think that they could smell it because they obviously lived there, and it's a known fact that you acclimate to whatever kind of smell your home has. And I think all of our homes have like some kind of faint smell, not necessarily a bad one, but they all have some kind of a smell and we just don't smell it. So immediately that like turned me off of that idea. I'm sure that the Diaper Genies and those types of things have improved since then, but I actually looked up last night how much a Diaper Genie holds, and it holds like 270 diapers or something like that. So I know people will say that they work, but I'm just like, if you've got like over 50 diapers just sitting in a thing in a room, I don't know, like my brain just says at some point that's gonna start to like ooze and stink. I found that a little bathroom trash can worked just fine. It held 1 to 2 days worth of diapers, and then my husband or I would just take it out once a day or once every other day, and that worked just fine. Now we cloth diapers, so we don't have to worry about that at all, but I don't think that a diaper specific pail is needed. And a lot of times you have to buy like specific bags that go into those pails. So then that's just like one more thing you have to spend money on, and it just seems like a big pain in the butt. And again, kind of a gamble because I don't know that you will actually know if it smells or not if you live in the house that the diaper thing is in, you know? The 12th thing is a wipe warmer, which I know can be so tempting because no one wants to hear their little baby scream when they get wiped with a cold wipe, but those can be a breeding ground for bacteria because it's like warm and moist. And I actually heard of a really good trick where you just put the wipe down your shirt for like 10 to 30 seconds just so that it warms up a little bit, and then you wipe your baby. And I've found that as my son gets older, he like doesn't really care about the cold wipe at all anymore. The next thing is a pacifier or soother, and I know that that's a tough one because I feel like people are either really for it or really against it. You have to choose what works for you. We were gifted one. I initially did not want to use them, but there were a couple times in the newborn phase where he was like hysterical, so we went ahead and we were like, just try the soother. And he acted like we were gagging him, so we were like, never mind. I know that there are different shapes, and so some babies will prefer like one shape to the other. So I didn't want to have to buy like 4 or 5 different types of soothers to have all of them but like one laying around and not being used. So I didn't love that. I also really loved that if you don't use a soother, they will probably suck on their thumb to soothe themselves. So that was great because at night I didn't have to like worry about a pacifier falling out and him waking up and freaking out. Like if he woke up, he would just suck on his thumb and he'd go right back to sleep. At this point already at 6 months, he doesn't really suck his thumb anymore. He is teething, so he will stick his whole hand in his mouth, but he's already grown out of the thumb sucking. So I'm not super worried about that. I know that some kids will end up sucking their thumb, but I think that the thumb sucking can be an issue with or without the soother, because without the soother, then yes, they're probably gonna suck their thumb at some point to self-soothe, but I think sometimes if you give them the soother and then take it away, then they will still end up sucking their thumb to replace the soother. So I just figured I don't even wanna mess with it. And so far it's worked out great. The 14th thing is Burp Cloths, and I feel like those are like the biggest gimmick. Like it's just a cloth. So I don't know why. Like they're just selling you washcloths essentially. You could definitely just use any old like hand towels that you have, or you could go thrift a couple of hand towels. I've heard some people say that cloth diaper inserts work really good, or what we ended up doing is using the receiving blankets that we had for when he was a newborn. We bought like a pack of 6, and obviously he was not using all 6 all the time, so we would just throw one over our shoulders and that would work perfect. Number 15 is a baby monitor. If you live in a really big house and you're like pretty certain that you will not be able to hear your baby until they are like screaming at the top of their lungs, go ahead and get it. But we live in kind of a small space, so 100% I can hear when my baby wakes up. But even when we went to my parents' house, they live in a much bigger house. My dad had an extra baby monitor that he hooked up for us, and I just found that it like gave me anxiety to be able to like see him and watch him, because every single time that he would move or make a noise, I was like, oh my gosh, like he's moving, and I'd be like, shh, everyone, shh, he's moving. So I didn't love it, and I guess like I just don't really see the point of it. Yeah, if it makes you feel better, then great, go ahead and get it, but otherwise I don't think it's necessary, and like I said, I think it can actually like cause some anxiety. The last thing is a white noise machine. Now let's pause here. It is really good to have something that can play white noise because it helps them fall asleep, it helps them stay asleep, and I think the big one for me is that it helps drown out noise that's happening outside of their room. But you can use your phone. There's YouTube playlists, there's Spotify playlists. You can use a tablet or an iPad. We use our Echo Dot. If you have that or something like that, you can use that. There's lots of options that aren't necessarily like a specific white noise machine, but it is good to have something. Okay, so that is all that I have for you. I really hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to check out this video right here, which is all about the only items that you actually do need for your newborn baby. If you are minimal or if you're on a budget, you'll definitely love it. I hope you are having a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!